All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, I want you to think of me not just as your host, but as your experienced business mentor. We're going to roll up our sleeves and take a really close look at one of the most dynamic, exciting markets in the entire world right now, Bangladesh. There are massive opportunities here, for sure, but there are also some pretty deep, hidden traps that catch new founders completely off guard. So, if you're an entrepreneur, a startup founder, or an investor trying to navigate this landscape, consider this your personal masterclass in accelerating growth and making absolutely sure your business actually survives. Okay, let's dive right in with a little bit of tough love and ask a really hard question. Why do thousands of Bangladeshi startups fail every single year? I mean, think about the environment here. Bangladesh has a population of over 175 million people. We've got a booming middle class, internet penetration is going through the roof, and there's a highly favorable demographic dividend. The demand is absolutely there. The market is hungry. And yet, despite all this massive potential, so many new businesses just don't survive those first few critical years. So, what's really going on? Well, it usually boils down to some incredibly common and completely avoidable startup mistakes. We're talking about things like a total lack of strategic planning, poor financial management, skipping the heavy lifting on market research, and, believe it or not, failing to actually figure out who your customers are. Look, these aren't some mysterious, invisible market forces. These are operational blind spots. And they usually happen because founders stubbornly try to navigate these ridiculously complex business challenges entirely by themselves. They rely on trial and error instead of getting professional guidance. And let me tell you, in business, trial and error is a terribly expensive way to learn. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 5 critical areas: the Startup Survival Guide, validating your market fast, essential financial planning habits, strategies for market entry, and finally, accelerating growth with TNIB. All right, part 1, the Startup Survival Guide, shifting from trial and error to strategic risk reduction. Which brings us to the most vital lesson of our entire session today: understanding what a mentor actually does for you. Let's clearly define what we mean by professional business mentorship. It's a structured relationship where an experienced professional gives you strategic direction, practical support, and those vital network connections to accelerate your growth. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this is not your traditional consulting setup. A consultant might just hand you a fancy report and walk away. A mentor? Totally different. They are your strategic advisor, your accountability partner, and your dedicated problem solver, sharing their hard-earned practical experience to drastically shorten your learning curve. Because a mentor saves you money by anticipating danger before you ever see it. Take financial risks, for example. A super common founder blind spot is trying to operate without any cash flow buffers. What's a mentor's strategic fix? Getting robust budgeting systems in place long before you run out of runway. Or look at market risks. Founders love to launch without any real competitor intelligence. A mentor steps in and helps you access that crucial customer behavior data. And when it comes to export risks, simply misjudging international standards can literally sink a business. But a mentor? They'll conduct a thorough export readiness assessment first. Identifying these potential traps before they turn into fatal crises is exactly how a mentor protects your capital. Moving right along to part 2, validating your market fast, proving your demand before spending your capital. The goal here is simple but absolutely critical. Prove your demand before you burn through your cash. If you're in the early stages, I want you to treat this step-by-step checklist as your very first major assignment. Step 1, identify your exact target customers. And I mean exact, not just everyone. Step 2, define the specific problem you are solving for them. Step 3, map out a clear, concrete path to generate revenue. Like, how are they actually going to pay you? And step 4, plan a realistic strategy to scale the operation. A good mentor will basically force you to complete this checklist to guarantee you actually have product market fit. You just can't build a sustainable business if you don't confidently know the answers to these 4 steps. Next up, part 3, essential financial planning habits, fixing the #1 killer of new businesses. Look, poor financial management takes down way more startups than a lack of sales ever could. Let's compare some common founder mistakes against essential mentor habits. Honestly, I see these mistakes constantly. Things like mixing personal and business finances, basically treating the company bank account like a personal wallet. Or pricing products incorrectly, either racing straight to the bottom or pricing themselves entirely out of the market. And amazingly, just operating without any budget at all. Now, contrast those fatal errors directly against the disciplined, structured systems a mentor helps you build. We're talking strict cash flow management, establishing realistic budgets, and executing data-driven investment planning. It is literally the difference between life and death for your company. All right, part 4, strategies for market entry, breaking through barriers locally and globally. What's really fascinating here is that this perfectly applies whether you're a local SME trying to expand or a foreign investor trying to enter Bangladesh for the very first time. Here are the key pillars you absolutely have to hit. First, determine the appropriate business structure. Next, target specific customer demographics and secure your competitive positioning. But perhaps the most important piece? Navigating regulatory compliance. I'm talking about things like BETA approvals, trade licenses, and import-export permits. Trying to do all of this alone is just incredibly daunting. A mentor provides that essential local expertise and those vital government connections to establish your local representation, which drastically reduces your barriers to entry. Finally, part 5, accelerating growth with T&I. Unlocking your ultimate business toolkit. Now it's time to unlock your ultimate business toolkit. We've talked a lot about what actually needs to get done, so let me introduce Trade and Investment Bangladesh, or TNIB. Their growth ecosystem provides a fully holistic suite of services. Check this out. 30% of their core focus is mentorship and consultancy. That's the strategic brain of your operation. But they definitely don't stop there. 25% is dedicated to export support and matchmaking to connect you globally. Another 25% goes to digital marketing and SEO, including Facebook boosting and Google Ads, to ensure you're actually seen. And the remaining 20% covers IT and web development to build a secure, professional online presence. It's an entire ecosystem designed to build a rock-solid brand from the ground up. And speaking of export support, there's a huge misconception we really need to clear up. When people think of exporting from Bangladesh, they almost always just think of garments. But look at these incredibly high-potential sectors: pharmaceuticals, agro-processing, leather products, jute goods, plastics, and information technology. TNIB specifically supports export development in these exact sectors through crucial buyer-seller matchmaking and international trade mission support. Basically, they help you figure out if your product is ready for the international stage, and then they physically connect you with the right buyers. I really want you to consider this insight from MD Joynal Abdin, the founder and CEO of TNIB. He says, "A single avoided mistake can often save more money than the cost of mentorship." I absolutely love this quote because it forcefully reframes how we think about getting help. See, so many entrepreneurs hesitate to hire a mentor because they view it as just another expense. It is not. It is an incredibly high-return investment. The money you save by not making a catastrophic pricing error or not violating a complicated compliance regulation pays for that mentorship 10 times over. Which brings us to our final question today. And it's a choice every single founder has to make. Will you learn by trial and error, paying the high cost of inevitable mistakes, or will you grow faster, guided by experience? The future of this incredibly vibrant market in Bangladesh belongs to entrepreneurs who are willing to learn, adapt, and seek out real expert guidance. Seriously, don't go it alone. Partner with a proven mentor, utilize ecosystems like TNIB, and secure your startup's future today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, here's to your sustainable growth.